Hi there, it's Professor Monty. Let me show you how to find formulas for inverses. Okay, so remember if the function, now it's a function past the vertical line test, the function f is 1 to 1. All right, so remember it had to pass the vertical line test and the horizontal line test to be a 1 to 1 function. Then it has an inverse. And we denote the inverse f with a little -1 here of 1. That says f inverse. Okay, so any 1 to 1 function will have an inverse. And if a function has an inverse, it had to be 1 to 1. So the inverse function undoes whatever the original function does. So I've got some steps here you can follow to find the inverse. And I'll show you on this problem, but the steps are first we're going to change f of x to y. That's what it means. Then we're going to swap the x and y. That's what's going to make it become the inverse. Then we're going to solve for y. And then we're going to change y to f inverse of x, because it's not the same y up here. Y here was the function. Y down here, once we swapped x and y, now it's the inverse function. Let me show you. So I've got this function, f of x equals 3x plus 2. And that's a line. It'll pass the vertical line test, passes the horizontal line test. It's a 1 to 1 function. It's going to have an inverse. So to find it, let's go through the steps. Change f of x to y. Swap x and y. And now solve that for y. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. Divide by 3. Now that's not the same y as before. It's not this y. Notice it's completely different because this one was the function, this one's the inverse. So now replace that with f inverse of x. And I've got my inverse function. Now that's the answer. If you want to get fancy and write that as 1/3 x minus 2/3 equals f inverse of x, you can, but you don't have to. In my class, if you stop there, you're fine. But change f of x to y, that was step 1. Swap x and y, that was 2. All of this was step 3, I guess all the way down here. And then step 4 was just replacing the y with the f inverse of x. And I've got my inverse. And so you can follow those steps anytime. The only thing that might be difficult is this part where we're solving for y. But sometimes it's super easy. Let me show you what I mean. If g of x is 2x, so all that's happening here, the function is just multiplying by 2. Well, I'm going to undo multiplying by 2 by doing the opposite thing. I'm going to divide by 2. So this is just x over 2. Done. H of x says, hey, take x and add 4. Well, what's the undoing, or the quote opposite of that would be subtracting 4. That's the inverse function. And if k of x is the cubed root of x, to undo the cubed root, we have to cube both sides, so that's x cubed would be the inverse. So they're real simple. You just look for what I like to refer to as the opposite function. It's not the typical opposite of just changing the sign, but it's the undoing operation. And notice with this one, you can do it. Instead of multiplying by 3, we're going to divide by 3. Instead of adding 2, we're going to subtract 2. But we do those, and we do them in the reverse order. So this says, hey, multiply by 3, add 2. The inverse is going to be, oh, subtract 2, then divide by 3. So the opposite operation and in the opposite order. All right, work with each practice. A lot of them you can just do in your head. If not, just follow the steps. All right, easy as that.